Hello, this is Sudhakar Maparthi. Today we're going to see elastic load balancing and how it works. This is under documentation elastic load balancing user guide. And as you can see, talks about what is the load balancer and how do you configure, how many types of load balancers are there, application, network, gateway, classic, and then availability zone and load balancer nodes, how they are related, cross-zone load balancing, and then some combinations. It's all examples, no big deal once you understand the entities. So up to here, zonal shift we'll see later. So let's go to our c1c2 diagram. Okay. So today I'm going to talk about these entities first, and then we'll go from there and draw these arrows and the relationships. Okay, let's see. So you got clients. Clients are nothing but applications coming and making requests. So those requests go to load balancer. And the load, what is the load balancer? It balances the traffic and distributes it across different machines so that the traffic can be handled. So that's the purpose of a load balancer. And it can also do encryption and decryption. Of the requests coming in and then sending it to the instances from where the response is made. Now, load balancer types or different types. We need to specify what is the load balancer type. So there are application load balancers. There are network load balancers. There's gateway load balancers. And there's classic load balancers. The port types. Ports are, the request is coming to what port? So port 8, port 80, port 443, stuff like that. Protocols, TCP, UDP, etc. The load balancer has a lot of load balancing nodes. And the load balancer belongs to load balancer has some target groups, and each target group has targets, and then targets can be a EC2 instance, or it could be a container, or it could be a IP address. So basically, when your client makes a request, it comes to the load balancer, and it goes to one of the load balancer nodes for each availability zone. So that's where this availability zone comes. So if I can have a load balancer node in one availability zone and another availability zone, and depending upon those availability zones, US East Coast, US West Coast, US West, and if the machines, these EC2 instances, or in in US East, then those will be the traffic will be received there. It will be sent, basically. It will be the traffic from load balancer goes through goes to that East Coast one, because you have a load balancer node for East Coast and one load balancer for West Coast. So that's the setup, basically. You have to set up all these things. All this, basically, you have to create those objects. Okay. And load balancer checks the health of each target. And then if the target is healthy, then it will say, okay, yes, it is healthy. And then if it is not healthy, then this target will not receive any traffic. Simple as that. So all healthy, yes or no. So all healthy traffic only goes to the target, and the target is an EC2 instance or a container or some other IP address. And then the traffic, the load balancer has listeners. So because the traffic is coming, so these listeners will be listening for the traffic, and load balancer will direct the traffic to appropriate targets. And what is a listener? A listener has a protocol, TCP/IP, UDP, etc., and it has a port number. So it has a port number. So a listener has a port, which port, which type of traffic is coming, what type of data, TCP/IP or UDP, and it will redirect it to those machines based on the availability zones where the nodes are attached. So, and then make sure that these targets are healthy. And if this load balancer is a classic load balancer, which is other than gateway, network, and app load balancer types, classic. So I want to designate that load balancer as is a classic load balancer. And classic load balancers, we can attach them not through targets but directly to the instance. So, for example, this particular load balancer will attach to EC2 instance directly because this is a classic load balancer. If it is any of the gateway, network, app load balancer types, then they will go through the target group. The traffic is sent to target group, and target group has a bunch of targets, one or many, and that traffic will be directed to that particular container or instance. So I drew this load balancer in the middle, and so that I could make these connections. Hope that makes sense. And then is load balancing enabled? This is another thing. Even though you set up everything, all these target group targets and targets containing these EC2 instances and all this setup, unless you say this target group is this load balancer is enabled, yes, then until that time, all that the traffic will not flow to those machines. Whatever this configuration is effectively not being used. So all this setup. So, but you still want to hang on to the setup. Sometimes, you just want to set it up. When you enable this, then the traffic starts flowing. And that is load balancing enabled. Then is cross zone load balancing enabled? What is that? Is cross zone load balancing enabled? We have another type. Is cross zone. Cross zone means if you have two zones, yes, east and west, and in east you have two machines, and west you have 8 machines. And if you enable cross zone, then 50-50 will be if always for each, if you have two zones where the machines are there, and then you say balance it, it just takes it to each zone 50-50%, 50%. And so if East Coast has two machines, so 25%, 25% in East Coast for each machine. And in the West, let's say you have 8 machines, then the rest of the 50% will be divided among those 8 machines. Unless you say cross zone enabled, which means, okay, I want to take all the 10, 8 plus 2, and then I want to balance 50-50, which means, so 50% of the traffic will go to thinking as if they're all 10 are there. So equally distributed. So each machine, 8 plus 2, 10 machines, each one gets 10, 10, 10. Is cross zone load balancing enabled. So that's that cross zone concept. Yes or no? Whenever is you see, yes or no. All right, I think that's all I want to cover for today. I'm just checking my graph that I drew on a piece of paper. Now I'm drawing that. This is how I do. I read the documentation, create a c1c2 diagram, and with that I have absolute clarity without any ambiguity, and then I explain these things. I want you to practice this way of learning. So when you read something, you should create such diagrams. This will help you unambiguously express in this so-called language called c1c2. That's what I call it. And that should help understand and remember these things much better. Okay, let's recap. So you have clients, applications, requests coming. Okay, let me use my invisible pen with yellow color. So my client is sending requests to load balancer, and load balancer is already configured to have a target group where to send the traffic to, and the traffic group has many traffic so many targets. Target group has targets. Oops. All right, let me just start over here. Load balancer has target groups, and target group has targets, and each target will be connected to an EC2 instance or a container or some IP address where we need to send the traffic. This load balancer makes sure that each target is healthy. It's healthy. And if all this configuration will be effective only if it is enabled. So that's why this arrow is there. If it is enabled. And load balancer can have many nodes, nodes, and each node will be there in a particular zone, availability zone, East Coast, West Coast, and that kind of thing. And they will be distributed. If you have this enabled, cross zone balancing enabled, then it will be distributed. They're thinking that all the things, all the machines, and divided by 50-50, divided by 2, because you have 2 zones, and if you have 3 zones, then 1/3 equally distributed. And you got listener, the traffic is coming, each listener tells what protocol and what port type of things requests are allowed, and these listeners are attached to our load balancer, and that's it. I hope that makes sense. Good luck, and I will see in my next video. Take care. Bye bye for now.